Siwa isn't a place you pass through. It's a place you escape to. Tucked deep in Egypt's western desert, Siwa feels like its own little world, where time slows down and the heat makes you move at a different rhythm. The oasis is remote. It's a long journey to get here, but it's worth it. What you find at the end of that dusty road isn't just palm trees, salt lakes, and ruins. It's a fiercely rooted community with its own language, culture, and pace of life. Siwa is one of the few places in Egypt where you feel like the experience isn't being sold to you. It's not just about the ancient sites, though they're incredible, but about slowing down, watching the sun melt into the desert, sipping tea in the shade while donkeys clip-clop past. This is a 3-day itinerary for budget travelers who want the real Siwa. Not the influencer fantasy, not the hotel package deal, just raw, honest, unforgettable Siwa. We'll break it down day by day with real prices, real people, and everything you need to know to make it your own. Siwa ain't just a place, it's an entire mood. It's remote, weirdly peaceful, and a little bit magical. But before we get to the oasis, we gotta survive this long-ass drive. We left the city behind, passing the coast, an endless desert that stretches so far it feels like time slows down.
We're in the middle of nowhere right now, though, on the way to Siwa. This is what we're dealing with. I decided to go during the day just because I like to see the landscape that I'm dealing with. I was already told that, like, this is pretty much it. But, you know, I like to check it out. On the way back, I'm definitely going at night and sleeping, but I thought it important to see the landscape of the land, get a feel of it. That's important to me when I travel. Let's go inside. I already been inside, but it's kind of like a cafe / store. You can get hella goods here. It's hella pimpy. People here are hella nice. There's our driver right there, looking OG. You good? But you can get hella stuff here. You can get shoes here, fatigues, you can get clothes, you can get toys. Oh, they might even have some electronics up in here. Hella food. You got this kid who came out of nowhere. What's up?
It starts out calm, almost too calm, but that's when the desert shows you its magic. Siwa's over 700 kilometers from Cairo, one of Egypt's most isolated towns. No trains, no planes. They got automobiles, though. We arrived at Abdul Kafur House late, a quiet oasis out of the way, but perfect for what I needed. The natural hot spring was calling my name, and after a long day of travel, it was exactly what I needed. This is Ahmed, king of the tuk-tuks. Dude drives like he's in Fast and Furious Siwa drift, but somehow it works. He offered us a tour, and we were off. As a matter of fact, we hired him every day. Siwa's roads aren't for the faint of heart, especially when you're rolling with Ahmed, a man who's mastered the art of tuk-tuk driving. This fool be mashing, but it's hella fun though. First stop, Gabal Dakrur. I'm gonna get a lot of names wrong, so I apologize in advance. But I just call this place a rocky hill, but let's not get picky. There are ancient tombs and ruins around the hill, and it's still used for local festivals like the Siwi Moulid Festival, a peace ceremony where the community gathers each October. People come here to get buried in sand on purpose too, like full-on Cuban burrito style. Apparently it's supposed to cure joint pain or some mystical energy stuff.
So I guess they have this festival, and there's a dude in this tower, and he comes up, and I don't know, I guess he has a mic or something, and he just kind of yells out like, yeah, we got the party going on, we got the food, come through, kick it, hit it up. So obviously you got to go up in the tower. I just can't not do it. And then now you're at the top. Hey.
Next up, Cleopatra's Spring. Sounds fancy, right? There's actually no proof Cleopatra actually rolled through here, but hey, branding's everything.
Second floor, Cleopatra's Spring. This is what I'm talking about. Let's peep the scene.
There's the spring itself, clear water, and then there's just a bunch of like cafes around here, and then people selling their wares. All right, here we have the seaweed juice straight out of Siwa. It's what is it? It's Nescafe, banana, milk,
Date.
and dates. And dates. So yeah, it's an energy drink. It's like a Red Bull. So I don't drink coffee, but whatever, make exception today because it's unique to Siwa. We tuk-tuked our way to the temple of Ubaid, bouncing through more sand than suspension. The ruins themselves, not huge, just a few scattered blocks and weathered stone, but this place used to be one of the most important temples in Siwa. It was dedicated to Amen, the big deal Egyptian god, and was actually part of a larger temple complex that once stood here. The temple of Ubaid, blowing up in the 1800s when someone got a little too excited about treasure hunting with dynamite.
And I'm pretty popular here. A lot of people want to take pictures with me, which makes me feel good.
Next up was Amen Temple, and now the crowds were starting to roll in. I'll be honest, Amen Temple is great, but once the tour groups start swarming, I'm just trying to get in and out. I've said it before, crowds kind of ruin the vibe for me. Still, if you're in Siwa, this one's a must. It's perched on this cliffside with a killer view of the Oasis, and the place has history for days. Alexander the Great literally pulled up here in 331 BC to talk to the oracle, and the priest told him he was the son of Amen. Yeah, that Amen. Talk about a confidence boost. This wasn't just some local shrine either. This place was a big deal. Back in the day, it was one of the top oracles in the ancient world. Like Delphi, Greece level pimp status.
All right, the Mountain of the Dead. This cemetery was the main cemetery of ancient Siwa during the eras of the pharaohs, the Greeks, and the Romans. It contains hundreds of tombs carved in the rocks. 4 tombs still retain their colors. Mountain of the Dead. Let's check it out.
Now let me be real with you. I wouldn't call this a mountain. It's more like a rocky hill, but still, it's worth the stop. This place is dotted with ancient underground tombs dating back to the 26th dynasty, Ptolemaic and Roman periods. So yeah, it's old as hell. It's quiet, eerie, and honestly, pretty fascinating.
Isis tomb.
The best preserved ones still have these wild painted ceilings and colorful scenes of gods in daily life.
The Pat Hot tomb.
And if you make it to the top, the views are great. You can see most of the places we visited earlier, all spread out around you. Back in the day, this hill was the main necropolis because it was dry, elevated, and close to the main settlement. I asked Ahmed to drop us off at Shali Fortress, right in the heart of Siwa. We swapped WhatsApps, set up a pickup time, and off he went.
All right, this is what I wanted. Like, this looks old school to me. This looks dope. One of the few ATMs. Second ATM I've seen here.
Now this place might be one of the dopest spots I explored my whole Egypt trip. I had no clue what the Shali Fortress really was. I didn't research it at the time. And honestly, sometimes that's a plus.
It's a maze. Look at that. And then there's just stairways everywhere to go up, down, around. It kind of reminds me of a larger version of the Crazy House in Vietnam.
With a name like Fortress, I figured it was some kind of defensive structure. There were towers, high points, but also homes and little shops. Maybe it was just a dense community. What it felt like most was a labyrinth. I got lost more than once and I loved it. Turns out it was built back in the 1200s out of something called karshif, basically mud, salt, and palm trunks. Super local, super fragile. This whole thing was once home to the entire Siwan population, packed into these walls to stay safe from invaders. It's crazy to think this maze of ruins used to be a full-on community. My first mission, get to the nearest high point, Took a couple wrong turns, got spun around, but finally made it. Even though there were tourists around, it wasn't packed. And the view up top, dope as hell. The fortress was way bigger than I thought. Apparently, a massive rainstorm hit in 1926 and literally melted huge parts of this place. That car shift stuff doesn't stand up to water, so now half the fortress is just ghosts of walls and exposed rooms. Off in the distance, I spotted this big rock formation with a mosque right at the edge of the fortress. It looked totally empty, and I knew I had to climb it. Time to move. This whole side of the fortress, empty, crumbling. Totally my vibe. I started climbing the rock, bit of a scramble, but nothing crazy, and made it to the top. The view gave me a whole new perspective. I could finally see where the sun would set and realize if I wanted that perfect sunset shot with the fortress in front, I needed to go back to the tourist side. Always got a scout. I posted up for a minute, took it in. These moments where it was just you and the ruins, that's what I traveled for. Last stop of the day, sunset at Fatness Island, a chill little spot on Siwa Lake. Yo, take the left path all the way down when you get there. Don't stop early because the trees are gonna block your view of the sunset. So here we just kicked back on cushions, grabbed a drink, watched the sun melt in the salt lake. Quiet, wide open, kinda perfect. Day 2, Ahmed was taking us to the salt lake and then we'd be hitting up the desert jeep safari. But first, let me tell you about the ritual. If you're brave enough to dip into the salt lakes, there's one thing you absolutely must do afterwards, and that's bathe in Cleopatra's spring. It's kind of like a rite of passage. Now here's the real deal. Salt Lake isn't exactly as glamorous as you see in the YouTube videos. In fact, let's call it what it is. This place is a working salt mine.
Here we are at the salt lake. It's not much of a salt lake. It's more of a salt pools. So they do mining for salt here. I didn't know that. So you find these pools, these salt pools. As you can see, there's just hella salt. But what was funny is it's closed today. So the tuk-tuk driver just, he went and took a different path. It just went off road. And he just started mobbing around, and then we hit these two pools. There's another one. Yo, here we are, Siwa Oasis, Salt Lakes, or what I like to call the salt pools. It's a little cold, but it's not too bad. Here's the tuk-tuk, and this is what we're rolling on. We're mobbing on this. I'm gonna try to get some footage on the way back. This is what we were dealing with. Okay, so like this is back on like the road. Shit. But it's still hella bumpy.
A little late, but the Jeep finally rolled in, about as punctual as a desert mirage. This was our big desert safari in Siwa. Fun fact, Siwa is a mere 50 kilometers east from the border of Libya and surrounded by the Great Sand Sea. So when the Jeep shows up, you don't ask questions. Also, if you're planning one of these safaris, they'll probably ask for your passport info 24 hours ahead. Not because you're gonna cross the border, just desert bureaucracy things. The ride? A chaotic roller coaster on sand. Our driver was either training for the next Mad Max film or just really committed to the art of car gymnastics. Sea was part of the Great Sand Sea, literally the third largest dune field in the world. So yeah, it's like nature designed it specifically to ruin your spine. We made some photo stops, you know the vibe, giant dunes, epic horizon, and someone doing a dramatic scarf toss for Instagram. I didn't mind. They weren't in my shot, and that's all I asked from strangers and influencers alike. Eventually, we reached an actual oasis. Now, Siwa has over 200 natural springs, so stumbling upon water out here isn't exactly rare. But what was rare was how many Jeeps and people were already there. Mostly local Egyptian tourists, which honestly gave it more authenticity than your usual tourist trap. We eventually peeled off to catch the sunset. Gorgeous view, the kind of place where even your worst photo looks like it belongs on a postcard. Some of the group tried sandboarding. Siwa's dunes are perfect for it, but if you've never sandboarded before, prepare for a lot of falling and chewing sand. I passed. Didn't get up early, had breakfast. Egypt has a lot of flies, by the way. Not really a problem for me. I spent summers in Mexico in the 80s when I was hella young, where flies were practically part of the family. But yeah, if you're delicate, maybe eat indoors. Plan for the day, climb Gabal Dakrur. They call it a mountain. That's cute. It's got two big rocks and a dune in the middle. I was told the left rock has a flat platform, sunset views, etc. Sounds simple. Last day in Siwa. Gonna do this hiking. Then go to the salt cave. And then probably back to the Shali Fortress. Well, that's the end of the hike. And there's one of them. There's like 20 dogs up there, and I'm good. I'm not about to fight a bunch of dogs. I'm done with that in my life. So I'm gonna head down. I probably could scare them with rocks. There's another one. Fuck it. Some guy on a truck saw me and started miming like a desert charades champion. We talked when I got back to the street. So now we got Omar. He's about to fight the dogs. Well, probably not. He's probably just gonna wave his hand, and the dogs are just gonna disperse. He didn't even have to do anything. He just appeared and they're totally docile. Oh no, they did bark. They retreated. He threw rocks at them. Well, here we are at the top, thanks to Omar. And then we got the desert. That's where we were yesterday. Finally, over there is where the salt pools are. Sickness. On the way down, I ran into one of the women from the house, solo exploring. We wandered around and found rooms carved into a rock. Very post-apocalyptic Airbnb. Back at the spot, Ahmed came through as usual, but before we hit Shali Fortress one last time, he was like, yo, you gotta check out the salt cave. I was like, cool, sounds like a cave, right? Like stalactites, echoey chamber, maybe a bat or two. Yeah. No. It was basically someone's Airbnb with Himalayan vibes. Just a bunch of rooms with hella sand. You lay down for like 15 minutes while music plays and the lights go moody. Like a wellness spot, but make it crusty. We bury you in salt from the chest down. No talking, no phones, just you, your thoughts, and a reminder that humans will try anything for inner peace. It's like acupuncture without the needles. But hey, when in Siwa, right? The salt comes from the nearby lakes and is said to soak up negative energy and electromagnetic noise. Whether it works or not, I walked out feeling alright. Oh, and I got a solid 10 out of 10 nap out of it. The rest of the trip, just Shali Fortress and me wandering the streets. So yeah, that was Siwa. 3 days, minimal money, and 0 regrets. If you want to do it real cheap, you can just rent a bike, but time's more important to me than money. I'd rather mob around quicker than ride a bike all over the place. Would I do it again? Hell yeah. Drop a comment if you've been here or plan to. Smash the like if this gave you ideas, or at least made you laugh. And sub if you're into offbeat places, awkward encounters, and questionable decisions made in the name of travel content.
About to have some tea right there with the homies.
Peace, and keep being curious.